That's what's causing wars on the planet right now, is the thoughts we have about each other and the judgments we make of each other. That's the seed of all disruptive war on the planet. Is our thoughts and beliefs and stories that we've made up about each other when we fucking don't know their map. Don't know what they've been through. We don't know what they consider true and good and honest and real. We don't know how they've been raised. We don't know what they've prayed to. We don't know who's been praying on them. We don't know. So here we are throwing our judgment, telling them they should make a different choice based on our map. How dare we? How dare we?
Hello, you beautiful bluebirds, and welcome back to another episode of Deja Blue. Yes, it is becoming a show. There are people online that are saying, I love your show. I'm like, it's a show?
It's a show.
We've got a show. And because there is a show and the greatest shows woman, I'm sitting next to her.
Annie Oakley.
Does she need an introduction? I'm not so sure, but I'll give her one anyway. Her name is Reverend Briana Lynn. She is the queen of speaking from the earth and impacting the lives of so many individuals through her hot fire, white fire truth. This woman is one of my favorite people to have a conversation with, and just really just look into her eyes and just bounce. Like we bounce back and forth. You're like, and then I'm receiving all the codes while simultaneously knowing that it's being documented, and then other people with a click of a button can tune into the energy and be like, wow, my relationship to money just drastically changed because I listened to this woman share her wisdom and her knowledge and her embodied truth. So we get to have you again back because the people want it. The people have spoken.
Thanks,
So
people.
we have Reverend Briana Lynn, Reverend of the Earth Temple of Shamanic Arts and Prayer, School of Prayer.
Yeah, so grateful to be here, Blue. Thank you. And thank you to all the bluebirds and everyone who's tuning in. And yeah, just here to be in the continued conversation of relationships.
The bluebirds love you.
I love the bluebirds.
If you're at home listening to this right now, in this very moment, you're driving your car or you're walking and you're taking your dog for a walk, this very moment that this information is landing in your ears, I want you to make a bird call. I'm thinking more of a...
Oh.
Yeah, that was like a dove.
Yeah, I'm a little more dovey
very,
right now.
Very
Yeah,
sweet. But like, we want to like I love the Deja Blue podcast, and I'm going to publicly make a bird call.
Okay. We're talking more like raven eagle.
Please, would you demonstrate? Yeah, there's conviction in that.
Yeah.
All right.
I was
So
a little
wherever you
nervous because I was definitely more in the dove mode, but I went there because I'll go to the edge every time for you, Blue.
I can only find you when you give it your all.
That's where I meet you.
Alrighty. So today when we met up, we actually didn't really know what we were going to have a talk about.
We never do.
Which I like, because then I'm on the edge of my
good.
seat as much as everybody else is.
And it's more authentic too.
Yeah.
There's an aliveness to it I appreciate.
Yeah, totally. Predispositioned. Anyway, but we did land on something that felt like a really beautiful theme that was like, this feels like uncharted territory that we haven't spoken about publicly, and also is something that affects everybody on an everyday basis. You cannot avoid relationships. Relationships with your neighbor, relationships with your postman, relationships with the person that works in the store, relationships with your best friends or your lovers or your parents and your family. We are all in relationships.
So many relationships.
So how do we navigate this interesting realm of relationships? And I think you've got, if I would to calculate this correctly, you've got some juice on this topic.
We have some mutual juice on this topic.
Well, we can bounce.
Yeah, we can bounce back and forth. Man. Yeah.
I'm not even going to lead you in with a question this time. I'm just going to let you just run with it.
Yeah. I have this fantasy that I've played out at different points in my life of just like packing up all my things, finding some cabin out in the middle of somewhere where I can just like have my own garden, a little stream where I fish, my favorite books, like 10 of them, just Thoreau style. Just get out there and say, fuck it to all relationships. Just fuck it all. Just I'm done with the social media. I'm done with the navigating this and the it can be so heavy. It can be so much density. It could be so, it's like, what the fuck? Why are we even doing this? It's divorce and breakups and children not being with their parents. It's so fucking heavy, except it's why we're here. We're not meant to do this alone. Whether we're isolating ourselves in our own living room, on social media, or isolating ourselves in the middle of a jungle or in a cabin somewhere in the woods, ultimately we came to learn how to work together. It's why all human beings are here, is for relationship.
Mm-hmm. So it's why we're here then. Does that mean that the cabin and the creek is completely off the cards?
I mean, I think for a period of time, right? Like fasting.
Or you can actually just make both happen. Am I wrong in saying that you live in the forest?
Absolutely. Like I think
in a tent that's the shape of a vagina.
Yes. That's very true.
Forest pussy.
Vulva, lips. It's great. I really appreciate it.
And you also live in Los Angeles, so you're always surrounded by relationships. And in fact, you live at the Mother Tree.
Yes, I do.
And there's how many people that live there?
There's 10 of us.
10 of you, and that's a lot of relationships.
That's, 100 and something relationships, because it's every single one person with one person, and every thirds and all the fourths and all the fifths and all the sixths. And so it's each like constellation of relationships has a different flavor and texture and dynamics and activations and triggers and turn-ons and griefs and rage. Like it's so interesting, especially because we're at a time where we're healing from our family wounds, right? So we want to be connected to each other. We want to talk things out. We want to be honest with each other. I'm learning one thing in community and relationships: hide nothing doesn't mean share everything.
And I read that recently. That completely changed the game for me of like radical transparency. And then I'm like, maybe a little less radical.
Yeah.
But still transparency.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it. I think it might have even been the last podcast we did together, but feelings are information, not facts. And also feelings are meant to be felt. Not all of them are meant to be expressed. And there are many different ways to feel feelings, and expressing them in front of each other. I'm learning that in relationship, expressing feelings in front of each other, the consideration always gets to be self and other, like the audience. There's always an audience, right? Relationship is about our relationship to the receiver of our energy, of our love, of our complaint, of our anything, because it's literally energetic weight that I'm then putting into the space. And I've had to learn a lot about that this last year. Being energetically responsible with what we bring to relationship, through our words, through our actions, through our follow-throughs, through our integrity, through our touch, through our consent, through all of that.
And yet don't you feel like then, because it's our responsibility, that actually gives us the power to create very quick changes and evolution, because the refinement happens on a much faster pace based off of us living with others.
Yes, when that is acknowledged, right? When triggers aren't acknowledged as the thing that can help us grow, but we just think it's because that person's an asshole, right?
Oh, shit. Right? Then we've got a little bit of an issue.
That's an issue. That's a whole other department. So in relationship, we're always being shown something that's going to support us in our relaxation or our growth. And I really enjoy having relationships that have a little bit of both, right? I don't always want to be in a growth cycle with someone, whether it's creation or like challenge, right? So if I can't relax with the person, they're not going to be in an intimate relationship, like friendship, or I need to be able to be chill. Some people I'm just in a creative relationship with. Some people I'm just in, a relaxation relationship with. But for me, my favorite ones are a bit of both. What happens is when we start to refine our emotional intelligence, which is just the self-honesty around what our internal experience is at any given moment, right? So as we hone into that more and more, we're able to show up in relationship and narrate the experience, and also be able to receive the other's narration and impact, right? And that's what refines relationships over time, is the ability to and willingness to share my own experience while being there to receive the impact. And in that is the decision of not just why am I saying what I'm saying, but the vision of I'm connecting with you because we have a vision of having an incredible friendship together and building this podcast into an actual show and getting paid to do this. And, all these different things. So it's like what I bring and what I say is about what I'm feeling with you and all of that. And I have a bigger vision with you. So it's always been like whatever comes up in terms of conflict or even like personal, with a bigger vision in our relationship that has been somewhat implicit. Like it's not like we've said this is what we're creating together, but we throw out these creation seeds all the time to each other. And that gives, for me, in my experience, the relationship, the interpersonal relationship, a lot of space because I'm in this with you for the long run. I'm not trying to get anything from you. I want to create with you. And in our consumerist culture, a lot of times we've been taught that relationship is about getting something from the other person. They're going to make me feel like a princess. She's going to make me feel like a king. I'm finally going to be complete. I'll then have the boyfriend I want to know. Then I'll have the non-binary partner who proves that I'm actually with this. Or like whatever it is that we think we're going to get, sex, stability, freedom, whatever it is that we think we're going to get, that's the hook that makes relationships turn sour. That's the space where it starts to cramp down on the vision and what we're actually here to ignite for each other and the planet.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It creates, the longevity, the forward motion. There is something to move forward towards, and it creates like a freshness every single time. But I find that, with you and my closest sisters, the only way, there hasn't been an exception, the only way to get to this point has been to sit in the uncomfortable.
Oof. Straight on the coals, just right there. No underwear on the coals with each other. Just full flaps open, ready to receive the singeing. And it's uncomfortable. Let's be real. For as much love and as high consciousness and as much as we live in our pelvic bowls, like we're present, right? We're present motherfucking women. There have been sticky times and moments that have burned. And I think we live in a culture that conditions us that as soon as we start to feel uncomfortable, that means there's something wrong. That's just when things are getting good. If we can sit in that together, breathe, not take it personally, connect to each other's innocence and speak what is and is not in alignment.
I noticed something though. I feel like we share feedback on the level in which we speak to ourselves.
Absolutely.
Specifically, like in my partnership, sometimes my feedback can be very harsh, and I was reflected back of like that wasn't very compassionate. It felt like there was the frequency of shaming me for a certain pattern. And I really got to sit with that, and I was like, oh, that's what I say to myself. I'm like,
usually about that same topic.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Oh. And then I'm like, oh, right. But that is standing in the way of me in the intimacy with you. So you're right. It is just about to get good. That good feeling is lingering right on the other side of this got presented that says, like, I'm shaming you, therefore myself, therefore there's a piece to unpack of how I create the conversation with myself and what I do.
Yes.
That will actually create a deeper level of intimacy. And now our love is about to go to a whole new page.
Yes. I want that algorithm up here right now, because what you just outlined is basically, there's like 3 steps back from that final one, that usually what happens is lover responds with, hey, that's too harsh feedback. And then other lover will respond as, well, fuck you, you're not honoring my feelings. But there's a space here where when we can stay in the curiosity, right? When we as partners, whatever that means, can stay in the curiosity of the energy that's there and make it as impersonal as possible while staying deeply connected to the person.
See, it all fucking feels personal in the moment.
Right,
You're like, that's so personal.
Right, and the archetype is deep within us, right? That trigger is deep within us, that lack of acknowledgement that we got in that moment, that abandonment that we got in that moment, that it was reminded of us in that trigger that our partner just gave to us as a gift. It's reminding us, it's pressing play on a tape from long ago and far away, neurologically. And we're responding to that energy because it reminds us of the energy that was mirrored back here, as if it were that event. And usually we weren't able to express ourselves at that event. We weren't able to be rageful. We weren't able to be snide because it was our father who would have hit us, or because it was our grandfather who hurt us, or because it was our mother that we couldn't be expressive around, or whatever the story was. And so that trigger is there to show us where in our body violence still exists.
Okay, so if in the moment I've got the trigger and it's come up and I'm like interjected in the moment of reacting to taking ownership, and I'm actually going to start to take ownership in this moment, and like even though everything in me wants to just walk away, I'm going to actually acknowledge my part that I'm playing in it. Now, when I acknowledge that part that I'm playing in it, how do I detect where it lies in my body?
Yeah.
And how do I get it out?
Yeah, these are great questions. So the first is you got to breathe. Because usually in these moments, we're not breathing.
So you're like looking at the love in the eye.
Deep. Unclench your butthole and your jaw simultaneously, like full unclenching, full Star Child unclenching from the base to the crown, okay? There's got to be a relaxation in the system because when we, right, it's already into defensive. Yeah.
If the butthole was a human, it would be like
shriveled. It would be Gollum in the fetal position. Oh, yeah. Ungollum your asshole, please. And
asshole also linked with root chakra.
Root chakra, which is what we're talking about: relationships, tribe, community,
so
village.
Relationship is related to root chakra.
Well, the base of relationship is related to the root chakra. There's other chakras or energy centers in the body. Sorry, microphone. Other energy centers in the body that activate, maintain, and accumulate certain frequencies based on the electromagnetic frequency of what's present in the body. So the root, which is considered where we sit, right? Kind of the asshole to the front of the opening of the genitalias of the body. This area is what is called the base chakra, or the root chakra, the Muladhara chakra. Its color is red. The chakra system comes from India. It's of the Hindu tradition, is the oldest lineage. It's mostly written about in Sanskrit. And this system is a good way for us to understand, whether it's actually or metaphorically. I'm not here to say whether it is actually there or if it's just metaphor. What I am here to say is that it is a useful frame to talk about these subjects. So when we say root chakra, that's what we're talking about. So what we're sitting on is basically the base of us as humanity. So that starts like our tribal sense of belonging. This is the tribal sense of belonging. So we're talking intimate relationships, gets a little bit more into sacral. Relationship with self is at solar plexus. Relationship with heart center is heart, all the things. So base chakra is where we exit and enter the world, essentially. Like that's where we came from, literally.
And I'm having like breakthroughs right now.
Yeah. That's what we deliver on the Blu and Briana show. Just constant breakthroughs.
I have breakthroughs when you talk.
Great. That is fantastic. I like that too. Woo, sorry, Lily.
Sorry.
She's having a breakthrough too.
Anyways.
So what happens in the first 7 years of our life, basically from the time we're in utero until we're about 7 years old, our neurology is developing. That's our brain, that's our nervous system, that's how we make sense of the world, our belief systems, our identity systems. So by the time we're 7 years old, pretty much everything is set. There can still be traumas that can offset and still be...
7 is the first 7 year cycle.
First 7 year cycle. And that's pretty much when the base neurology is set.
So within the 0 to 7, then you have the base neurology is who you would be when you're 45.
Identity-wise, belief-wise, if you were never to do any self-introspection and there was no accountability of self, there was no way of saying, okay, this is what I'm feeling and I have responsibility for that. And this trigger is caused by something in my past. If there's no association with that, that 7-year-old can grow up to be 47 and have the same emotional intelligence. Because emotional intelligence is not taught or practiced in our society. Most people who are 47 are operating from 7 or less. Mm-hmm. Most of the world's leaders right now are operating from like 2 years old where mommy didn't answer to them or they got shipped off to some crazy boarding school. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of insanity on the planet right now because of their childhood trauma, because of who they were raised by, because of who they inherited their money or their power from. China, the Middle East, all of South America, like these are deeply corrupted people who come from deeply corrupted families who are currently running our world system right now. And it's like connecting to their innocence is because they have a base root chakra disassociation from a trauma that allows them to then inflict ridiculous amounts of heinous harm upon other humans. Hurt people. What we see right now on the planet is a bunch of disassociated, psychopathic tendencied, emotionally unintelligent young children in adult bodies making calls about things that are not in consideration of all of humanity, much less self or other self.
Mm-hmm. Think about that when I go down to Venice Beach and with the homeless community. Mm-hmm. Or the home-free community. Yeah. Whenever, like, there was a woman that walked past my car today and she was, like, yelling and, like, looked into the car window and I just saw into her eyes for a moment and all I was seeing was, like, her as a little girl. Yeah. And, like, screaming and, like, pain. And then being an adult and it just keeps sort of looping itself. Yeah. And there's just breathed so much compassion. Like... everyone was this beautiful little child that came into this world, and then things happened and it created loop patterns into mental illness over a prolonged period of time that then outwardly expresses itself as crazy. Ultimately, it's a piece that like is a little child that's afraid, scared, and desperately wants to be loved.
Yes, 100%.
Breeds compassion. So I think that's something that's helped me in interpersonal relationships is instead of reacting, just taking a moment to take a breath and then to go into what I could imagine their experience to be like. From like, it's almost like time pauses and then my soul jumps out and goes into their flesh suit and then starts seeing out for a moment and like feeling different pain points that have happened in the past. And then this moment is bringing it up and then switch back again. And then it breathes a deeper layer of compassion for that person's lens or experiences as to why that is now cycling again and how it's a match to my pain body.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much. And like stepping into someone else's shoes or active compassion, or we call it stepping onto someone else's map or getting their world. Like
stepping into someone else's map.
Yeah. And like actually seeing yourself, because none of us have the territory in our system. We have maps of the territory.
It's like snakes and ladders.
100%.
Stepping onto someone else's snakes and ladders.
Yeah. Someone else's snakes and ladders, yes. And that piece of compassion, the original question that you posed that I loved was, how do I feel where it is in my body? Like when I'm having this emotion or energy, how do I feel where it is in my body and how do I get it out? And so breath is that piece of kind of first just slowing down. And then the next piece that I always invite in for myself and what I'm learning is to like give it as much time as I need. I may need to ask for a pause from the other person. Be like, I actually need like 10 to 20 minutes right now just to feel what I'm feeling. Journaling is a really good thing to do at that time. I think also what can happen in those moments when things are unresolved is our fight or flight, freeze, or fawn system can come in and start to activate and be like, we got to resolve this right now or the relationship's going to die, right? Like we have to figure this out. Figuring things out, I'm learning in relationship, is the killer of everything. There's actually nothing to figure out. The answer always blooms. The answer always blossoms. But when I'm in a mode, some people call it the shadow masculine, but
Shadow what?
Shadow masculine, of like the mode of figuring it out. Like I'm going to fix the problem. I get like that when there's a lot of like chaotic emotions in the space. I get very logical and I just start writing bullet notes of what needs to be covered next in the meeting or in the relationship even, or like I can feel that part of me get activated. But to really slow down and give spaciousness and to understand that there's nothing to figure out. If we're trying to figure each other out or solve a problem, it's going to feel very mechanical receiving that from the other. So it's actually just to be in curiosity, to constantly be in curiosity. So the first piece is breath. The second is some spaciousness and to be in curiosity, to like, and that process of removing the trigger is also about doing the inner work, right? Like regression work, whether it's plant medicine work, and that's completely by everyone's individual choice. That's not a suggestion. Meditation, diving deep into unconscious psychology, somatic work. Like these are all ways to get into the unconscious or the other than conscious, which is where these patterns live and hide. These are not conscious things. I'm not saying, oh, it would be a good idea for me to sound like a snarky bitch and cut my man off at the balls right now. Like I'm just going to give him that one little like pow comment that lets him know he stepped out of line. Like that's not a conscious decision. It's a trigger that by his tone and the way he turned his head away just enough at that comment. How you fucking dare? Those are the things. And so in those moments, as much as I can sit here and say these things about the process, I also have triggers that until they're pointed out to me sometimes, I don't even know. Or sometimes I have an intuition of like, ooh, that was a snarky bitch comment. And I can catch myself and apologize and make amends and still be expressed in where I felt something was out of alignment. That was the piece that's been coming through a lot, is like, can I connect to their innocence and speak what is and is not in alignment? Like I can still express like, hey, I actually didn't appreciate that you didn't take out the trash today when you told me you would. It has me not trust you. And I just want to talk about that. Versus him come over and he like tries to hug me and I like slink away. And he's like, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm just wondering about the trash again. Ball chop.
classic.
Just chop right there. Just,
Give me the balls on my chop.
and he's like tired and he just like got off the phone call like 3 hours on something. He comes out and he wants just a little kiss and you're like fucking giving it to him for the trash. Those are the triggers that I'm talking about. And those are the small triggers over time that wear down a relationship.
Agitation, unexpressed agitation. It's like two bones and no cartilage.
Ugh.
That's what it feels like.
We need collagen of kindness.
Oh.
Kindness and working on our triggers. I love what Azra and Adam came up with. It triggers are here to train and teach us. Was that
5 T's? I'm really conscious of putting my hands above the table because I've got hair dye on them.
Yeah. They're not that bad, actually.
Babe, look at my nails.
A little stained. I mean, it looks like you were working Adobe or something.
Yeah, well, I wasn't.
No.
5 T's, trust the trigger to teach.
Yeah.
So if that can just be like placed as like a mental map or on your snakes and ladders game of relationships and just recognize any trigger is a teacher. Any trigger is a teacher. Any trigger is a teacher. Here is your gateway to up level in frequency and transcend a pattern that was created from a place where you couldn't emotionally process it in the moment.
Yeah. Exactly. And the trigger is actually there to excavate the original root trauma.
So it gets to come out.
It gets to come out, yeah. But sometimes we murder the messenger.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But that sucks because after the emotion is passed and you did kind of hurt the messenger.
You did that.
You get to go back and have that conversation to close that tab.
Yeah.
And just put some balm of compassion and love onto it.
Yeah. Accountability and cleanup work that's done when we notice a trigger and we notice that we respond from that triggered place. It doesn't mean we don't speak what was out of alignment. Usually it's triggers aren't...
That's the truth.
Right? Like triggers aren't just nothing. There is something to be expressed there. There's a charge, whether it's let's create together or that was actually out of alignment for me. That's to determine in the moment. But triggers aren't neutral. That's the good thing about them. But to discover where it is that they came from, you don't even have to know the root cause, but just starting to understand the pattern of it, starting to track them is a really powerful piece.
Sorry, I just... There's just moments where I like catch myself in the middle of like, yeah, and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Literally
like,
3 years old right now.
Literally. Or like maybe even 8.
Yeah.
You know, but I've got fucking attitude.
So
I'm
sassy.
Like, yeah, well, you didn't say it either.
Yeah.
I'm like, and you're like, what? What am I saying? Wow. Okay. Hey, girl.
Yeah. She
wasn't heard.
She wasn't heard, and now he's not hearing me, and I'm going to stomp my foot until you hear me.
On the door a little harder than before. Are you okay? I'm fine.
Yeah, I just...
Large exhale. I did that the other day. I got into bed, and we had an eye mask on. I was just triggered by something. It was super small. Small enough to be like, I could sleep on this. Like, it's not like too big, but I'm pissed. And I was laying down and put my eye mask on. Night, babe. Night. You okay, babe?
The sigh that speaks 1,000 words.
Not really, actually. Thanks for asking.
A little
I didn't think you were going to ask.
Yeah. Do I even exist anymore to you?
Yeah.
It goes there. You know what I mean? Like the little girl goes there. Do I even exist anymore to you? And this little drama queen of like, please love me.
Yeah.
Even when I'm a little bitch. Please love me.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's caused some of the biggest wars on the planet.
Yeah.
It's our inability to create relationships.
Yeah.
Or understand or maintain relationships.
Yeah, it's caused all the wars on the planet. War is another type of relationship, right?
Well, it feels like zoomed out version. So like our interpersonal relationships are also a relationship to the wars on the planet.
Yeah.
Like directly correlated. It feels like it creates a collective vibratory charge, and then it creates that contribution to then play out on the macro, just like, you know, our experience with the weather, our experience with the government, anything that's on the macro And so for me, like really digesting, okay, how I'm interacting with you in this moment is what our government are doing to other countries. Like there's the link.
Yeah.
Because imagine if every single person on this planet just started taking responsibility for their own triggers.
Oh.
The wars would end.
That's it. We'd be done. We'd be done.
So that's a literal piece that can be integrated.
Integrate
that actually
this.
is a
Listen,
contribution
Bluebirds,
to
this
the
is
wars on the
huge.
planet.
Yes, this is about world peace. If every single one of us took responsibility for all of our feelings, especially our triggers, but if we responsibility able to respond, if we all became able to respond to every single one of our feelings.
It's not easy to take responsibility, though. It's not the easy road. It's not the easy path.
No.
It's easy to talk about it right now while we're not triggered.
Right. But I love blaming people. It's so great to have
It's
a
easy.
good fucking donkey to pin that tail on. Who's responsible around here? I'm always looking for the adult, right?
And the funny thing is about like the donkey and the tail game, you got to be blindfolded. So you're not necessarily pinning them in the right place.
No, usually not. That's what makes it funny in a child's game, but not so funny in life. Everyone's looking for the leader that's going to help us out here. That's going to help us on the planet. Stop arguing with each other. Everyone's waiting for the leader to start the meeting. This is what I've noticed at the Mother Tree, in many communities, in yoga communities. Everybody's waiting for the guru. Everybody's waiting for the one teacher who's going to step forward and take charge. And that's not what's meant to happen. Because what we have on the planet right now is what happens when one person steps charge and tries to control. Tries to name. We can have leaders in different ambits that are responsible for different pieces, but when we try to have one president or one prime minister or any sort of megalith monarchy that is centralized, there is a dissociation of the spirit. Yeah, we're being called to tribe again. We're being called to focus on our micro communities, our relationship with self, with each other one-on-one, within our micro communities where we live, our blood families, and really heal these relationships, because healing these relationships from self to other self will heal the entire planet.
It feels like a very tangible, like personal thing that, in this moment I can digest this information and actually start bringing more consciousness into my interpersonal relationships, and that's the piece I can play in this.
Yeah, I
so
take responsibility.
Feel helpless right now. It's like, there's a deadly virus on the loose, and I don't know what to do, and whether I should get vaccinated or unvaccinated, or I'm not really sure what's actually happening. Like, I don't know how to even like heal this or bring some light. I can post on my stories till kingdom come, but I don't know if that's making much of a difference. Like, actually realizing that this is the responsibility. This is the keys.
Full responsibility for all of my emotional experience. I take full responsibility for all of my emotional experience.
I take full responsibility of wanting to have a sip of your drink right now because it looks really delicious. So yummy. Are you kidding me?
No.
This is the Mother Tree in a mason jar.
Yeah, it's peppermint, lemon balm, oregano, rosemary, just infused in spring water. I just leave it in the sun for like a half a day or sometimes a full day. And then I'll use the same herbs for 2 or 3 days and then dump them out and then get fresh herbs. And it is my favorite drink on the planet right now.
It's fresh.
Yeah, it's a garden in a jar.
Kangen water?
Spring water.
Oh, spring water. Wait, where'd you get that from?
Anna goes every few weeks. She takes all of our jugs and goes to a fresh spring and fills them with gurgling out of the earth spring water. And that's what we've been drinking. We use Kangen to like wash our vegetables, and we use it to drink sometimes, but like to have this spring water, it's living water. It's kind of the best.
It's delicious.
It's delicious.
Blueberries infusion. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Should put all that salad. Blueberries infusion. Well, it's delicious. It was looking at me while you were talking. It was like,
it's like a little
I will quench your
ecosystem.
thirst. Huh?
It's a little ecosystem in there.
It is. It's really fascinating. It looks like a biology experiment when you look at the bottom of a pond through a glass window.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I don't remember ever doing that, but yeah. So relationships, Brie. Navigating them with a place of love and compassion and actually creating union and unity on this planet again.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about? Right now we have a conversation where there is an argument or arguments or tension, resistance, division, and separation around the narrative of vaccinated and non-vaccinated people. And I saw this meme because I look like memes. So do you.
Yeah, I do.
And it was the same picture of people like on their high horse, like, oh. And it says what vaccinated people think about unvaccinated people. And then the second picture, the exact same picture of them, like, oh, what unvaccinated people think about vaccinated people. And there's this like divide that is almost as great as the battle of the sexes. And I'm curious what your meta perspective on this division is, and how in our own individual lives can we transmute this out of our system where we are starting to judge somebody else for their decisions around what they do with their body.
Yeah, this is a great conversation. It's very similar to the shame levels of sexuality towards women. Like the way people are being shamed for vaccinating or not vaccinating is very similar to how women are shamed for their sexuality. Like they make the person wrong. They make their identity like you are a bad person for vaccinating or you're a bad person for not vaccinating. And here's the thing, it's a choice. That's all it is. It's a choice. And none of us have enough research right now to say whether the vaccine is actually going to help. None of us do. And so those who are choosing to take the vaccine are doing so at a risk. But for some of them, not taking it and that risk is more on their map. So we honor that choice because we have agreed to, being American citizens, freedom of fucking choice. That's what we are built on. Similarly to for those who are choosing to not vaccinate, that is their choice. As a vaccinated person, I would hope that you would stand up for my choice to not vaccinate because we stand for each other's freedom of choice. Even though I don't agree with your choice, I will stand up for your freedom of choice. Now, there is the argument that being vaccinated or not vaccinated can cause harm or that it's going to do this. We also don't have enough actual academic research to show any of that at this point in time. There has not been enough research done on this virus to know actually how to treat it well. We need to slow down and we need to get those pharmaceutical big drug companies out of the hands of what's happening. Let's get the vaccine tested by labs that are not sponsored by multi-billion-dollar stakeholders. That's what we need to do. Can this vaccine actually help us? We actually don't know. There has not been enough tests to prove that it does. And there has not been enough tests to prove that it's not causing the next level of Delta strain. So I think it's just an amazing thing to be able to sit and have this conversation. I feel incredibly privileged to, and I trust everyone's choice in this process. Everyone's, no matter whether I agree with it or not, there's a freedom of choice here. And as soon as we start saying that this group of people is right or this group of people is wrong because of their choices, that's when the war will begin.
A civil war.
I mean, a war within our communities first. Like, it's just sad.
Civil, huh?
Yeah, it's just sad, this feeling of people being divided like that over something that we can't prove right now. Like if it was something that we could actually prove and that we could sit at the table and have agreements on, from how many doctors have walked away from this scenario. The head of Pfizer stepped down in the middle of the vaccine.
Really?
Yeah, the middle of the vaccine being put out. Like it's not no vaccines or yes vaccines. It's we're moving way too fast to be able to make a good call right now. The train's moving too fast and people are trying to jump on the train and they're getting injured and dying. So it's just important to, in all aspects of life, but I think this is just one megalith that's happening in our culture right now of COVID and vaccines, to not judge a person by their behavior and our cultural or personal or biased beliefs around what that means about them. I have a map of the territory. I do not have the territory. They have a map of the territory based on the culture, based on where they grew up, based on what they're eating, based on the education that they've had access to, based on their parents, based on what they believe about the world, based on what they believe in terms of their religion. That's their map. So when I try to place my map on someone else's map, that's oppression. Mm-hmm. So even if I was correct in saying that we need to get vaccines, me telling someone that they are too stupid to make their own choice, you have to do this, is oppression. Even if the behavior that I'm forcing is correct. That's called oppression, when it's not inspired, when it's not from a place where someone's able to make the enticed choice. Sure, entice us, show us the research, show us how it's working, show us how the numbers are reducing, because they're not. Let us make an informed choice. That's freedom of choice. I'm down for that. Let's go, right? Polio vaccine, I fully support that. That would probably be something that I would give to my child depending on the circumstances. That shows that type of virus has been shown over many, many, many years of research that it's not harmful and that it actually prevents polio, a deadly, if not extremely debilitating disease that is totally preventable. Let's get it in an antiviral category that we can actually stand behind, not just push a drug because people want to make money. And I don't even have enough research to say that that's the only reason why they're doing it. There's nothing being put out about its effectiveness or not effectiveness. It's just not being researched. It's just being pushed. That's concerning as an academic. That's concerning. I'm not saying it's either this way or that way. I'm not telling anyone to vaccinate or not vaccinate. I'm concerned as an academic what's happening on our planet. And anyone who presents any question of the vaccine, they're not even saying anti-vax. As soon as they question anything about the vaccine, as a scientist, they're shut down. That scares me. They're not saying don't do the vaccine. They're saying, hey, there's a couple points here, shut down, deployed somewhere else. That's fascism. So as an academic, I stand forward to let people know, like, it's not just the what, it's the how this conversation is being had that really concerns me. It's a totalitarian, one-sided, fascist conversation, even if they are correct about their information. The way they're going about it is authoritarian and not inclusive and not slowed down enough with academic research so that people can actually choose in from a place of choice rather than just fear from how much is being produced by the media. Which is just one rolling commercial for pharmaceutical company after another, essentially.
Such an interesting experience while everything is coming up to the surface now, all the truth, everything, it's putting pressure on the already wobbly relationships. Going back to that conversation of relationships, because it's literally dividing the humans on this planet to one narrative or the next. And it's a global conversation.
It'll be the third, though. It'll be those who choose neither side that find a middle path. And it's the most challenging one, to stand in the middle of the paradox and not choose either side. To stand in, I will wait for truth. I serve only truth. I'm not here to stand on anti-vax or vax side. I'm going to literally stand in the middle and be like, humans get to choose. And I've made my choice, and I keep it like right here in my center. And I will not use it as a weapon. I will not use it as an identity. I will not make it mean that I'm a good or a better person than anyone else. This is just my choice. It's just my decision. And I will live with the repercussions of it.
It's so interesting. Sometimes I just go on Instagram and I go on the comments of a celebrity that just got publicly vaccinated and posted a picture of it. And I just like go into the comments with the popcorn and just see where humanity's at. And it is insanely polarizing. And this is where we are right now.
This is where we are right now. The most radical thing at this time is literally to not take a stand. To not be pro-vax or anti, but to be pro-choice, like to be for choice. I don't mean it in the abortion sense, but to be for the choice of each individual. That's the most radical, to actually say, I trust that that human knows what's good for them. And if they don't know what's good for them, then that will indicate what their choice needed to be, and they will get to learn from those repercussions themselves. But we don't have enough, literally, we don't have enough academic research right now to say what is actually truly good or not good for humanity with this virus.
And then also, I think with the algorithms on Instagram, it'll only present more of what you already believe or admit. So it's just keeping us in these own
closed ecosystems.
That's not allowing the information of like a different perspective, going back to the conversation of how if you're in an argument, go into the shoes of the other. It's like, how can you go into the shoes of somebody else's perspective or opinion when you're operating in the same circle and what you're emitting through the algorithms on social media?
Well, the thing about social media that's so fascinating is the thing that gets the most clicks, or the thing that gets the most is like that vibrant, right? Like, even in the words, like, it's not always all the time. There are subtleties and amazing poets who can pull in that subtlety. But when it comes to like almost like a political or socio-political side, if there is that fire, that cutting, it gets that like grab, right? You and I have even talked about it. And that fire is what is being fed off of right now. And so there's a almost an incentivizing of the polarization on social media, a social and popularity incentivizing to be as polarized as possible, to like go in one direction or the other and to really stand there. But to stand in the neutral ground, it's neutral.
Which you talked about. We did a whole podcast.
Yeah. We're not going to actually charge this situation. I'm just going to refuse to charge the situation.
So you feel like being on one side or the other, say this is like the oneness, this perfect ring on the table. This oneness is the neutral space. And either on I'm pro-vax or anti-vax, then it charges the situation to stay alive.
Yeah, I think in some ways I would just say you can be pro-vax but still be not charged about those who choose to be anti-vax.
So it's the charges with the other perspective.
Yes.
That is presented at the table.
Yes. Yeah. Can you be
Without
vaccinated without being pro-vaccination? That other people have to do it. And you can even say, I would like other people to do it, or I believe that it would be best for humanity for others to do it. That can all be said, right? It's more of like making the other the enemy. Mm-hmm. As soon as the other is the enemy and there's blame thrown upon them, there's charge literally thrown their way, that's what starts wars. That is war. That's violence. To throw charge at someone because of their decision is violence, even if it's just mental, emotional. That's very powerful energy. We all know the power of the heart and the intentions, the mind and prayer. Throwing charge at someone, telling them they're a bad person, even in your mind, is black magic. That's what's causing wars on the planet right now, is the thoughts we have about each other and the judgments we make of each other. That's the seed of all disruptive war on the planet. Is our thoughts and beliefs and stories that we've made up about each other when we fucking don't know their map. We don't know what they've been through. We don't know what they consider true and good and honest and real. We don't know how they've been raised. We don't know what they've prayed to. We don't know who's been praying on them. We don't know. So here we are throwing our judgment, telling them they should make a different choice based on our map. How dare we? How dare we? The map is not the territory.
Mm-hmm. I like that you call it a map.
Yeah. It's accessible. My teacher, Carl Buchheit from NLP Marin, is the one who started that.
I had a feeling when you said it's called being in someone's map. I thought that must have come from your NLP training.
Yeah, neuro-linguistic programming. It's a very helpful frame to understand neurobiology and the way that the mind and the body and our belief and identity systems work, and just like as a base to understand humanity.
You went through the whole program, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got 2 masters in it.
Yeah. I did 2 years of continual study and then did something called holographic for a little bit as well, which is a whole other level of kind of seeing energy in the universe and how we're connected and how to complete loops, essentially, how to complete contracts in certain energetic ways. Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're pulling from the living library of the NLP masters.
Yes. Very grateful.
All right. Well, I feel like that's been an hour.
We've definitely been an hour. Yeah. We're good.
Sometimes I just lose track of what time actually is when I'm talking to you, because I feel like I just look dead in your eyes and I just go into a whole portal of just like bouncing.
Yeah. Quantum bounce.
Quantum bouncing.
The name of our first album will be Quantum Bounce.
Yes. I like that.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, relationships. There we have it, folks. Reverend Briana Lynn. If anybody's listening to this and they're like, okay, this woman is dope. She's onto some next level shit. She spits truth and she's creating content for me to plug into in a realm where I can't really believe anything. How do I find you?
Rev Briana Lynn, at Rev Briana Lynn. On Facebook, on Instagram. I'm on a few other things that I don't really check, but that's where you'll find me, mostly Instagram. And all my offerings and all the things to connect with me more are on there.
You got anything coming up?
We have really excited for Sunday. Oh, this will probably come out after that, but I'm going to talk about it anyways.
What's Sunday?
The Sacred Rage ceremony
the
that we're
Roar
doing.
thing on the
Roar.
Lions Gate.
Really excited about that. And then doing a 22-week mastermind with women called Orgasmic Oracle Codes that I'm really excited about. So I'm taking what we did in Sacred Circle Facilitator training and orienting it towards pleasure and purpose from the feminine perspective. So we're calling in 11 womb-bodied humans who want to go on that journey with us. So that's October 1st will start, but we're enrolling starting next week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. We're almost starting early.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah. I just like to let it trickle.
It helps. Amazing. Okay, beautiful. So this is the way that people can find you and get navigated towards your offerings and your things in the world.
Yes.
Thanks for coming back onto Deja Blue.
My pleasure. I love being here.
If anybody wants to like watch some behind the scenes footage or some things that we've created also that ultimately support this podcast to be alive, to be a very real thing that's pumping. What's a pummel? Oh, really?
Yeah.
I saw more of like a grind.
Like a rock can pummel you
Like
as it rolls down a hill.
Belly on that bed, I'm going to pummel you.
Oh, that's a way to say it, but pummeling actually is the action of being beat up pretty horrendously.
Well,
if somebody says, I got pummeled, they're usually not referring to a good fuck. Usually not. Usually not. We can change that right now, though, if you want.
no time like the present to shift your reality through the words you use to describe a certain situation.
Yeah.
Last night I got real pummeled.
Yeah. Yeah, if you came to me and like, Andre pummeled me, I'd be like, are you okay? Like, do we need to talk? Like, blink twice if you need me to call the cops. Like, what? What the fuck do you mean he pummeled you? I get gangsta on his ass. Pummeled you, and pummel him back. What the fuck?
I used to look at the dictionary meaning of pummel.
Yeah, I think you do. I thought FOD was going to be my favorite. This is my new favorite.
Alrighty, well, nothing to like leaving this podcast on a high. From now on, the word pummeled will be extracted from that way of how I see a good lovemaking session. Anyways, thank you.
You're welcome.
For your time.
My pleasure.
We have this date thing where she comes over every other week and we create content together in my dining room.
It's the best.
It's special. It's our catch-up time.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in. If you feel like you'd like to be a part of the Patreon community, the link is in the bio or in the description of this post. This isn't a post, is it? How would I describe this?
The video?
YouTube video.
It's like here or here or here or here.
Yeah,
sometimes.
oh yeah. And hit that subscribe. I've never said this before. Hit that subscribe button. Ding. And subscribe to the channel. Thanks for tuning in to Deja Blue Podcast. This is season 2, episode 62, she thinks. 62 episodes.
Share it.
Share it on your Instagram stories. If you feel like a resonance of this, you feel like this information or this insights can really, really support you on your journey or support somebody else. Share it through your platforms and let's get Reverend Briana Lynn's voice out into the world. And let's continue to spread the wings of the Deja Blue podcast. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, let out a bird call in 3, 2, 1. Yours is like a dove today.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, you're feeling so gentle and tender.
Yeah.
I'm more like, it's like a mating call.
Yeah, yours is very wonderful. A little aggressive, but I like it. Like,
It's not
stingy.
quite pummeled. It's not a pummeling bird call.
No, you sound exactly like the crow from Sleeping Beauty, the cartoon. Remember that?
Isn't the crow pretty like wicked?
Yeah, but like we understand.
I don't want to be wicked.
It's the
I'll
good.
adjust.
Yeah, yeah.